Wow, welcome once again to this channel. We are so privileged to have you, and I want to personally, express my very heartfelt gratitude to you for being part of this broadcast. We are still on the Life Without Chains series, which we commenced a while ago. Now, I have availed you with tools to address such chains. Now, I did inform as well that there is really no life without chains. I gave you, an example. Moses was born into chains. Bible records that the king that knew no Joseph, the king that did not understand, did not avail himself of the exploits of Joseph, chose to exterminate, the male child born to the Hebrew women. But thank God for grace and mercy, Moses was saved, and eventually he was able to lead Israel out of the bondage called Egypt. Jesus himself was one of such persons who was chained in his lifetime when he operated here in the earth. Jesus severally had to confront those chains, and we saw how he broke through those chains to attain his primary assignment, that of laying down his life for the redemption of man. We saw severally how Apostle Paul confronted chains that had confronted him as well, and he broke through those chains to accomplish the divine task to which he was primarily sent as a pilgrim to the earth. Now, I want to, amongst all several weapons and skills that have been made available to us, I want to talk about the power of self-control. Yes, the power of self-control when confronted with chains, and how to deal with such chains. The power of self-control. What is self-control? Self-control is the ability to control oneself, control your emotions and your desires, or the expression of any of them when confronted with hard situations. We know that chains are very difficult situations. The question therefore is, when confronted with such hard situations, we are told by scriptures that self-control is a key requirement for breaking, for destroying, for dismantling, for defeating hard situations. Chains are hard situations. You will recall when I shared with you that chains, they are primarily set out to abort or even assassinate your desire for the pursuit of divine assignment. So chains also, self-control also means your ability to exercise restraint over your own impulses and other kinds of desires. Self-control also means your ability to exercise restraint over your own impulses. So we are invited to appreciate that self-control is a key requirement for breaking through the chained life, because you've got to learn to conquer such impulses in order to avoid being submerged by these chains. So self-control is also informed by the big picture mentality. I want to repeat that. Self-control is also informed by the big picture mentality. In other words, you are not desperate to avenge anything. You are not desperate to address a situation or a contest that requires that you maintain a certain posture. So self-control is very important when dealing with the changed life. We see Peter respond to Jesus hastily when Jesus said to him that, Peter, in a few hours you are going to betray me. And Peter said all sorts of things. He lacked self-control at that moment. But eventually we saw that what the Christ spoke about came to pass. So we've also seen so many persons fall into the ditch to which they are unable to extricate themselves because they did not have self-control. I'm sorry to say that one of our fathers, Moses, when he was confronted by those riffraffs, he lost it. Anger management could not help him. That Bible records that he was he was commanded to speak to the rock, but instead he struck the rock. There is a big story there. He struck the rock instead of just speaking to the rock. So he lost that control. He lost that. He was not able to control his impulse, his emotions at that point. Why? Because the mixed multitude that accompanied him out of Egypt had so exhausted the man satanically that he lost control. And you and I know the outcome of that very engagement. He lost the right, as it were, or the privilege, if you like, to lead Israel into the very promised land that the Lord spoke about. So self-control is always informed by the big picture mentality. Often we lose the plot because we are desperate to satisfy certain constituencies. Yes, I repeat that. We lose the plot because we are desperate to satisfy certain constituencies. The changed life, we know, is not going to go away anytime very soon. But you see, when you understand self-control, you know that waiting on the Lord for equipping, waiting on the Lord for endowment, waiting on the Lord for empowerment is a key requirement for effective and efficient dismantling of these chains. Bible records that they that know their God. You see, to know our Father requires self-control. To know our Father requires patience. To know our Father requires perseverance. To know our Father requires wisdom. And so when we don't operate in self-control, we can extend the life of the chained life. Now, let's look at some Bible expression about self-control. In Proverbs chapter 25 verse 28, we are told that like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. So this is a compelling statement, and it's an invitation for you and I as we seek to break those chains that confront us seasonally. We have to possess self-control. Now let's look at something else also from Bible expression on this matter. In Job chapter 2 verse 10, the Bible says, but he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. So there was this aspect again of the lack of self-control. So family is important, that because we now know that the changed life, I repeat that, the changed life cannot be wished away. Self-control is a fruit that you are required to bear. Are you following me? It's a fruit that you are required to demonstrate in the face of multiple hardships. Hallelujah. Now, I want to look quickly for us the rules of self-control. There are rules that kind of speak to self-control. And I want to look at a few of them because we now know that the changed life cannot be wished away. What are those skills? What are those graces that must come into place when you need to erase, when you need to destroy, when you need to assassinate those demonic chains? We are told that you need self-control. Now, what are these rules? The rules that guide self-control. Number one, self-awareness. You see, you cannot be self-controlled when you have no self-awareness. Oh yes. So I don't need to explain that to you, but you know what? Self-awareness. Is one of the rules that guide self-control. Now, the second thing is avoiding isolation. You see, there are lots of people out there where isolation can create problems for them, multiple problems. So if you need to be expressive, if you need to be a person who is able to control the self, then isolation is something you must watch out for. Then another thing that helps us to control the self is to be able to filter and then stabilizing your environment. You have to filter. See, there are so many triggers out there. You are invited to watch out for such triggers. Learn to filter and then stabilize your environment so that you maintain self-control. Then another key rule for self-control is self-evaluation, ongoing self-evaluation for maintaining standard. When you engage continuous evaluation, you are able to maintain standard, you are able to be vigilant, you become sober, you are not easily distracted. Then now, let me also let you know some of the risk involved when it comes to self-control. Number one is that self-control can throw up relational isolation. So instead of building that force of relatedness, you shift into relational isolation. Another area that you should watch out for in terms of self-control as a risk is it weakens your interpersonal skills, especially communication. I repeat that self-control, the possible risk of self-control is that it can weaken your interpersonal skills and especially communication. Self-control, when not properly managed, can also lead to mental disorder. Yes, it can also lead to mental disorder. And then self-control can also suffocate partnership, where these are the possible risks of when you are not in charge of controlling the self. Now, let's look at the benefit of self-control, a few of them, because this is about life without chains. What are the benefits of self-control when you are able to maintain self-control? What are the benefits? Number one, it helps you to harmonize relationships. We saw that in scriptures. For Moses, for Jesus, Jesus had, there were many instances where they threw so many things at him, but he was able to control the self, and through that, he harmonized relationships. Number two, you are able to enhance spiritual growth. Oh yes, self-control is the fruit of the Spirit. So when you do that, you enhance your spiritual growth. And then another thing is this: when you are able to control the self in the face of hardship and adversity, you self-develop. And then finally, the benefit of self-control is predictability. You are able to predict outcomes simply because there is effective self-control. So family, the chained life is not something that is going to die anytime, but what we do know is that when we are equipped, we live this life of testimony. So thank you so very much for joining me today. I want to really appreciate what you've done by availing me of your time. So before you go, I'd like to invite you to subscribe, to like, and of course share this message and let everyone in your sphere of influence and benefit from this. Once more, my name is Ono Abada. I'd like to say God bless you and goodbye.